Looks like 07 Eddie Virrell on his Skidoo 9500.
0777.
On the 580 cc's. Starting line, how are you going to run this class as far as heats go? Sleds entered, we're going to run 2 heats of 5 and 4. First 5 machines on the line. 111, Joe Greenleaf out of Hewitt, New Jersey on a Skidoo Plus. 136, Tom Bratchell out of Stafford, Connecticut on an Arctic Cat. 149, Mark Wasowski out of Thomaston on a Polaris Century. 150, Phil Tisso out of Waterbury, Connecticut on a Skidoo Mach 1. Number 77, Todd Stiles out of Windham, Maine on a Yamaha SRX. Yamahas, who's it going to be? Looks like Polaris in this one. Came out on top at the end. Todd Stiles out of Windham, Maine on his Yamaha SRX. Takes the first heat in liquid stock D. We got 135, Ed Charette out of Farmington, Connecticut on a Yamaha VMAX. 07, Ed Virrell out of Auburn, Maine on a 9500 Skidoo. 125, the Nato brothers out of Kensington, Connecticut on a Yamaha EX. I don't know if all the brothers are going to ride it once or not. 163, John Ushak out of Forestville, Connecticut on a Yamaha EX. I see the Skidoo walking away. Eddie Virrell takes a heat on his 9500 Skidoo.
25 was second.
Okay, we had a bump on that heat. We're going to rerun it. The starting officials are calling a rerun. Okay, looks like a repeat for Eddie Virrell. Eddie Virrell takes the second heat of liquid stock D class. How you gonna do this? One consi dropping out the 2 fourth place finishers or what? Okay, in the consolation run, liquid stock D class, we got 4 sleds. 2 will go into the final. Joe Greenleaf out of Hewitt, New Jersey on a Skidoo Plus. Mark Russell, Mark A. Wasowski out of Thomaston, Connecticut on a Polaris Century. Ed Charette out of Farmington, Connecticut on a Yamaha. And the Nato brothers out of Kensington, Connecticut on a Yamaha. It's like a Skidoo and a Polaris are going to go into the final. What's the other one? What's the second one? Yes?
After this heat here, this is the final coming up. We're going to mod stock B. Can you announce that so the drivers can know?
Mod stock B, okay. Coming up, the final in liquid stock D. For you drivers after this, we're going to run the mod stock B class. All drivers in mod stock B, you're going to run right after this final race here in liquid stock D. 11, Joe Greenleaf out of Hewitt, New Jersey on a Skidoo Plus. Number 149, Mark Wasowski out of Thomaston, Connecticut on a Polaris Century. Number 77, Todd Stiles out of Windham, Maine on a Yamaha SRX. And 07, Ed Virrell out of Auburn, Maine on a 9500 Skidoo. close one, but I think Eddie Verrill got it. In Maine wins Liquid Stock D on his 9500 Skidoo. .470 cc's. Running for the money, we got 152. Robert D'Onofrio out of Wolcott, Connecticut on a Yamaha SRX. 154. Warren Curtis out of Housatonic, Massachusetts on an Arctic Cat Z. 7X, John Kluke out of Guilford, New Hampshire on a Skidoo Blizzard, and 77, Todd Stiles out of Windham, Maine on a Yamaha SRX. You broke up completely. Give me the first place, please. Nothing at all. I can't hear anything. Say again, please. Okay, watch the way they come down. That's the way they placed. I can't get any word out of the finish line what the numbers are. .152, Robert D'Onofrio out of Wolcott, Connecticut on his Yamaha SRX. Well, you got to give me the numbers. I can't hear you. Okay, they didn't go down in the right order. That was not the winner. I'll find out as soon as I can who the winner was.
7X,
Winner was 7X, John Kluke out of Guilford, New Hampshire on a Skidoo Blizzard, the winner of Mod Stock B. Stock E, 581 to 650 cc's. I see 4 machines on the line. They should be 105, Rick Collin out of Plainville, Connecticut on a Polaris Indy. What?
133 on the line.
146, Bill Mathis out of Torrington, Connecticut on a Polaris 650 Indy. 150, Phil Tiso out of Watertown, Connecticut on a Skidoo Mach 1. Larry Morin out of Bristol, Connecticut on a Wildcat, and we're waiting for 133. Ed Charette out of Farmington on your Yamaha VMAX. 133 to the line, please. Okay, hopefully they're coming down the way they finished. I think 146 was first. Bill Mathis out of Torrington, Connecticut on a 650 Indy. Stock E class, 07 Eddie Verrill out of Auburn, Maine on his Skidoo 9500. 153. New Hampshire on a Polaris, and 125, the Nato brothers out of Kensington, Connecticut on their Yamaha. Eddie Verrill does it again. Eddie Verrill goes into the final on his Skidoo 9500. Will be the consolation run Liquid Stock E. The first 2 finishers will go into the final. The 4 sleds will be 150, Phil Tiso out of Watertown, Connecticut, Skidoo Mach 1. 47, Larry Morin out of Bristol, Connecticut on an Arctic Cat Wildcat. 153, James Mastro Battisto out of Bristol, Connecticut on a Polaris Indy. And 159, Edwin Britko out of Nashua, New Hampshire on a Polaris. It's a close one, but I think we got a Arctic Cat and a Skidoo going into the final. Stay in the right order. Okay, Phil Tiso takes the consolation on his Skidoo Mach 1, and also Larry Morin coming in second on his Wildcat will go into the finals. Arctic Cat fight. We got 146 Brian Mathis out of Torrington, Connecticut on a Polaris 650 Indy. Number 150 Phil Tiso out of Watertown, Connecticut on a Skidoo Mach 1. Number 47 Larry Morin out of Bristol, Connecticut on an Arctic Cat Wildcat. And number 07 Eddie Virrell out of Auburn, Maine on his Skidoo 9500. Did Virrell win? Who's number one? Eddie Virrell takes it. Eddie Virrell on his 9500 Skidoo. 07 License to Kill, Eddie Virrell. Okay, we got Mod Stock C on the line. It's 471 to 580 cc's. We got 4 machines gonna run for the money. Number 152 Robert Onofrio out of Wolcott, Connecticut on a Yamaha SRX. 77 Todd Stiles out of Windham, Maine on a Yamaha SRX. 7X John Kluke out of Guilford, New Hampshire on a Skidoo Blizzard. And 184 John Hess out of Portland, Maine on an Arctic Cat. Stock F open class. We got 6 sleds. We're going to have 2 heats, a consi, and a final.
Was that last one a race or not? I believe it wasn't.
Race was not a race. It was ruled not a race by the starting line. Liquid Stock F open class. 146 Bill Mathis out of Torrington, Connecticut on a Polaris. Oh, they're going already. Bob Tiso and Larry Morin. Bill Mathis will go into the final on his Polaris 650 Indy. Class 07 Eddie Virrell out of Auburn, Maine on that fabulous Skidoo 9500. 159 Edwin Britko out of Nashua, New Hampshire on his Polaris. 125, the Nato brothers out of Kensington, Connecticut on a Yamaha. Can Eddie Verrill do it again? One more notch on his gun. Eddie Verrill goes into the final. Liquid Stock F. Police Officer Roger Norton, please report to the starting line. Police Officer Norton, please report to the starting line. Oh, nobody's telling me about it. Out of Wolcott, Connecticut on his Yamaha SRX. Number 77, Todd Stiles out of Windham, Maine on his Yamaha SRX. Number 7X, John Kluge out of Guilford, New Hampshire on his Skidoo Blizzard. And 184, Jim Hess out of Portland, Maine on his Arctic Cat. Well, nobody told me what class this was racing. I don't expect anybody to tell me who's won the race, but I'm going to say it was the Arctic Cat. What class was that, by the way? Winner, number 184, Jim Hess out of Portland, Maine on his Arctic Cat. That's Mod Stock C class. Will the police officer please report to the starting line? Will the police officer please report to the starting line? This will be the Run for the Money Liquid Stock F Open class. 146, Bill Mathis out of Torrington on his Polaris. 150, Bob Tiso out of Waterbury, Connecticut on a Skidoo. 07, Eddie Verrill out of Auburn, Maine on a Skidoo. And 159, Edwin Britko out of Nashua, New Hampshire on a Polaris. You gotta hang on. That's what happens when you put Armor All on the seat and the handlebars. Run for the money in this class. They're checking our sleds out again, putting a little sandpaper on the seats, and maybe we'll get this run done. Eddie Verrill takes it. Eddie Verrill out of Auburn, Maine on his Skidoo 9500.
146 was second.
20 cc's. Mod Stock Open class, Mod Stock D Open class. 4 machines gonna run for the final. 2 Yamahas, a Skidoo, and an Arctic Cat. Robert Onofrio, John Kluge, Todd Stiles, and Jim Ness.
Yes, Marty, yes.
Number 7X, John Kluke on his Skidoo Blizzard takes Mod Stock Open class. Hey, coming up, Liquid Improved Stock A class.
See if somebody can get some food up here for headboard at all.
Stock A class, 144, Robert Bistrak out of North Branford, Connecticut on a Kawasaki Invader. 07, Eddie Verrill out of Auburn, Maine on a Skidoo 9500. Number 77, Todd Stiles out of Windham, Maine on a Yamaha SRX. Yeah? Eddie Verrill does it again. Eddie Verrill wins Liquid Improved Stock A class.
77 was second.
Second place is 152. Third is 177. I gotta bring you there.
This is the first heat in Liquid Improved Stock B class, 4 sleds. Okay, winner of the first heat, Liquid Improved Stock B, was 104, Ray Segreto of Bristol, Connecticut on his Polaris Indy. 150, Bob Tiso out of Waterbury, Connecticut on a Skidoo. 155X, Raymond Villo out of Bristol, Connecticut on a Yamaha. 129, Ed Charette out of Farmington on a Yamaha. And 47, Larry Morin out of Bristol on a Wildcat. Heat in LISB class. Class 07, Eddie Verrill out of Auburn, Maine on a Skidoo. 161, the Nato Brothers Polaris Indy. And 160, Thomas Farr out of Kensington, Connecticut on a Yamaha EX. Eddie Verrill goes into the final. Run. All the second place finishers are in the consolation run. The winner will go into the final. 3 sleds are Bill Mathis out of Torrington, Connecticut, Polaris Indy. 129, Ed Charette out of Farmington, Connecticut on a Yamaha VMAX. And 161, the Nato Brothers out of Kensington, Connecticut on a Polaris Indy. Hey, 146, Bill Mathis out of Torrington, Connecticut on his Polaris Indy will go into the final. That was Mod 3 Free Air. 341 to 440 cc's.
What was this, Mod 3? Was that a race?
Yeah, who won? Mod 3 Free Air was Ken Berker of Ithaca, New York on his Yamaha, beating out Toby Caulfield of East Glastonbury, Connecticut on his Arctic Cat EXT. LIS B class, that's Liquid Improved Stock B. 4 sleds are 146, Bill Mathis out of Torrington on his Polaris, Ray Segreto out of Bristol on his Polaris, Bob Tiso out of Waterbury on his Skidoo, and Eddie Verrill out of Auburn, Maine on his Skidoo. Looks like Eddie Verrill finally met his match. That's Ray Segreto out of Bristol, Connecticut on a Polaris ending. Class open. Segreto, you have 30 seconds to get to the line for Liquid Improved Stock C class. Ray Segreto, 105. In Connecticut on a Skidoo Plus. 129 Ed Charette out of Farmington, Connecticut on a Yamaha VMAX, and we're waiting for Ray Segreto out of Bristol on his Polaris. Sean O'Hara out of Tallinn, Connecticut takes the first heat on his Skidoo Plus. Auburn, Maine on his Skidoo 9500. No, number 07, 161, the NATO Brothers out of Kensington, Connecticut on a Polaris Indy, and 160, Thomas Farr out of Kensington, Connecticut on a Yamaha EX. Eddie Verrill goes into the final.
161 was second.
Stock C, and then after that it's all modifieds. C class. Well, 2 of the Yamahas will go into the final. We'll find out which 2 when they come down the return chute. Okay, Thomas Farr out of Kensington, Connecticut won the Consi. He'll go into the final along with Tony Bratchell out of Stratford, Connecticut. Stock C class. On the line, we've got 137, Tony Bratchfield out of Stratford, Connecticut on a Yamaha Exciter. Number 50, Sean O'Hara out of Tallinn, Connecticut on a Skidoo Plus. Number 07, Eddie Verrill out of Auburn, Maine on a Skidoo 9500. And 160, Thomas Farr out of Kensington, Connecticut on a Yamaha EX. Can Eddie Verrill do it again? The guy's all the way from Auburn, Maine, and I think he's got more miles on the track today than he did coming from Maine. Eddie Verrill all the way. cc's. We got 3 machines. They're going to run for the money. We've got number 7, Eddie Virrell out of Auburn, Maine on a Skidoo Mod 440. This isn't the 07 sled, it's a different one. He's got 2 sleds here today. We've got number 79, Kevin Bailey out of South Windham, Maine on a moto ski, and 7X John Kluke out of Guilford, New Hampshire on a Skidoo Blizzard. Okay, Mod 3, Skidoo versus Moto Ski versus Skidoo. Yeah?
I'm not sure. No, I think one of them was only for show, but I'm not sure.
Well, the machines that are running bear no resemblance to what's on my sheet here. Well, you got 7, which is Eddie Virrell, but not 07, and you got 79, which is a moto ski, and out of Guilford, New Hampshire. Please, number 44A, Jay Cofield, Freeman Racing out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on a Freeman Polaris. Number 44B, Brad Cofield, his brother, out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on a Freeman Polaris. Number 126, Pete Webster on a Polaris Centurion. 158, Donald Blyer out of Berlin, Connecticut on a Yamaha Exciter. And 7X, John Kluke out of Guilford, New Hampshire on a Skidoo. Money, 5 machines. 3 Polarises, a Yamaha, and a Skidoo. We know which one the Yamaha is. He's got his hood on. I don't know which ones are which the other 4. Looks like 44B all the way. Brad Cofield out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on a Freeman Polaris.
Did you get that?
I did, yeah.
44B, 44X is first.
Okay, the Cofield brothers, Brad and Jay in that order, 1 and 2 in Mod 4. That's the Freeman Racing Team. Freeman Polaris is out of Glastonbury, Connecticut. We're going to need the following sleds back on the line for a re-race. I guess it's Liquid Improved Stock C-Class. 137, 104, 50, 07, and 160. Liquid Improved Stock C, back on the line, back to the starting line for a rerun. 137, 104, 50, 107, and 160. 44A, Jay Cofield out of the Freeman Racing Team out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on a Freeman Polaris. Brad Cofield, 44B, from the Freeman Racing Team out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on a Freeman Polaris. 126, Pete Webster out of Merrick, New York on a Polaris, and 150, Don Blyer out of Berlin, Connecticut on a Yamaha Exciter. B all the way, Brad Cofield, Freeman Racing out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on his Freeman Polaris.
44B, 44A, 126.
1 and 2, 44B, 44A, Brad and Jay, Freeman Racing, Glastonbury, Connecticut on a Freeman Polarises. On the liquid improved stock C class. $137 Tony Bratchell out of Stratford, Connecticut on a Yamaha. 104 Ray Segreto out of Bristol, Connecticut on a Polaris. Number 50 Sean O'Hara out of Tallinn, Connecticut on a Skidoo. For the Mod 6 class, that's the open class. We'll see if the Boogeyman got his sled to run a little better. He's got 2 engines on that thing, 880 cc's. ISC class.
was first.
104 Ray Segreto out of Bristol, Connecticut takes liquid improved stock C class on his Polaris Indy. Okay, this is Mod 6 X class, experimental class. We got 5 machines gonna run for the money in Mod 6. Who's gonna be the fastest? Yes. Five sleds are 44A, Jay Cofield out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on a Freeman Polaris. 44B, Brad Cofield out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on another Freeman Polaris. 158, Donald Blyer out of Berlin, Connecticut on a Yamaha Exciter. Number 2, Marty Sherry out of Crapmore, New York on a Homemade. And 232, Skip Vandenberg out of Londonville, New York. Starting line, was that the last run of the day? Was that a heat or what was it?
As far as I know, that was a heat, but it's not the last one of the day.
Why? What's running next? I'm holding one sheet in my hand. That apparently was the first heat in Mod 6. I can't be sure. The starting line is keeping it a secret. I think we're going to have the second heat in Mod 6. Okay, that was the second heat in Mod 6. The winners of the 2 heats were the brothers Cofield again. Brad and Jay, they'll be in the final. Now we're going to have the consolation run. Run Mod 6 coming up. 3 sleds. First 2 finishers will go into the final to run against the Cofield brothers. Coming up, last run of the day, the Mod 6 experimental class, final run of the day. The races are going to move to Great Barrington, Massachusetts. They'll be there for 2 weekends, then we're coming back here to Terryville. Jay Cofield out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on his Freeman Racing Polaris. 44B, Brad Cofield out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on his Freeman Racing Polaris. Number 2, Marty Sherry out of Crapmore, New York on his homemade Boogeyman. Number 232, Skip Vandenberg out of Londonville, New York. Looks like 44B wins it. That's Brad Cofield out of Glastonbury, Connecticut on a Freeman Polaris. That was the final run of the day. I hope you enjoyed the racing here today. If you'd like some copies of it, DMG Video Productions is taping the races today. They're located in Holyoke, Massachusetts. The tapes are $25. Pick up a flyer down by the concession stand if you're interested. Also, we'll be back here again on November 6th at the Terryville Fairgrounds for the Connecticut Championships. That's Snowmobile Grass Drags, brought to you by the High Riders Snowmobile Club of Connecticut. Thank you for coming.